Constipation. Awkward to talk about, exhausting to live with, whether you are going every few days or you're relying on magnesium to get through the week. This episode is your gut reset. It's your starting point. We are going to talk into the real causes of your constipation. We'll talk into the ripple effect of the consequences and the steps that you can finally take to find the relief that you're looking for. You are listening to the Gut Health Jack podcast, where we question the common narrative and explore what lies beneath the surface. I'm Jacqui, functional nutritionist, clinical herbalist, and NLP practitioner, here to help you understand your body, uncover the root causes of your symptoms, and finally feel like yourself again. If you've ever felt like you don't fit into the conventional path, if you're tired of the quick fixes and crave a more honest, holistic approach, you are in the right place. Every other week, we dive into the often overlooked layers of healing and explore practical steps to rebuild your gut from the inside out, all while reconnecting with your intuition. Let's dig in. Hey, podcasters, Jacqui here. Welcome back to the episode of Constipation on the Gut Health Jack podcast. So anytime we're dealing with constipation, this is the first place I always address. When clients come to me and they're constipated, I'm like, we got to get the bowels moving before we do anything else, because this is a bottleneck for the whole body. And if we aren't able to get the waste material out of our system, this creates such a ripple effect. And so yeah, ideally we're having bowel movements, 1 to 3 bowel movements every day, every single day. And we want it to be a solid, well-formed poo that feels complete. And if you've ever seen a Bristol stool chart, we want it to be like a 3 or a 4. So it's just well-formed. It's a solid bowel movement that when you go, you feel a sense of relief and that you're done. We don't have a hard stool, no straining, and no rabbit pellets. So this is ideally what we're looking for. So if you are not going to the bathroom every day and you have rabbit pellets and you are straining, we got to talk. So listen in and make sure to stay to the end, because I'm going to be talking about exactly what to do about this. And so you can start going to the bathroom every day. All right, so now let's talk to the 7 reasons that constipation is a problem and what the consequences are. So firstly, if waste sits in the colon for too long, so you've got a really long transit time, stuff's taking a really long time getting through, you can reabsorb toxins and waste into the body, right? So literally we're allowing our trash to accumulate and then we're not actually taking it out. So that's a problem. I mean, think about if your trash wasn't being taken out in your house, it would start to smell and rot and get pretty gnarly. So we can also absorb endotoxins. So this is things that we make in the body just from normal processes, like how a carpenter makes sawdust, right? They just make, by building a bench, they actually make sawdust. It's just a natural product of our bodies. And that's what happens when we live and breathe and do the things we do. We make endotoxins, so we can absorb those. We absorb more bacterial waste. We also produce more toxic ammonia. So ammonia is toxic to the body in high amounts. It's normal, and we produce some of it through protein digestion and also through our gut bacteria. But normally your liver converts it into urea to be safely excreted. But with slow transit time, the gut bacteria can actually produce excess ammonia, and then some of it gets reabsorbed into the bloodstream, and excess ammonia stresses the liver. It's like not taking the trash out of the body, right? There's going to be fermentation that happens. There's going to be negative side effects. And this can lead to things like brain fog over time, or fatigue, headaches, liver stress, inflammation. We have to be taking our toxins all the way to the toilet. So it can mess with our hormone balance, right? If we're not excreting this waste, we can reabsorb our hormones, because our body deals with hormones the same way that it deals with toxins. And so if, for example, our body is recirculating estrogen because it can't get out of the body, this can lead to a whole host of issues. And estrogen dominance is a huge problem, and it's super duper common. I see it in my practice all the time, and I have actually experienced it myself. So this can look like PMS, heavy or painful periods, irregular cycles, spotting between periods, breast tenderness, bloating, anxiety, overwhelm, depression, brain fog, a lot of stuff. It's like building, right? So you can see skin issues, you can see full breasts, you can see brain fog. There can be digestive bloating around and before your period. There can be fibrocystic breasts and low libido, hormonal acne. We can see migraines. There's a whole, when we have our estrogen to progesterone ratios off, it really throws us off. So we want to be getting that estrogen out of the body, and we want to poop it out. And a little off ramp here. So it's really interesting to note that you can have low estrogen, like your body struggles to produce estrogen for some reason. And you can also have high estrogen symptoms. So I know that's kind of confusing, but it's pretty easy to understand if you just think if your body can't get something out and it's reabsorbed, it's going to be recirculating, and that can cause estrogen dominant symptoms. Just because you have estrogen circulating in the body, you might not actually be producing enough estrogen. So if someone has given you DIM, right, that's a detox supplement, and you have, yes, high estrogen symptoms, but you have low estrogen, this is kind of a problem. So it's really important to look under the hood and see what's actually going on with your estrogen, instead of just saying high estrogen symptoms, take DIM, and then you're all good. Because I've actually seen this where people took DIM and then we ran a Dutch panel on them and their estrogen was so crazy low. And that's a problem, right? We need it for bone health, and we need it for skin health, and we need it for our cycles and pregnancy and all this stuff. So yeah, it's interesting when we start talking about how the body works and functions, right? So the last thing I want to say on estrogen is we have this thing called the estrobolome. The estrobolome is part of the gut microbiome, and it's involved in estrogen metabolism. How does estrogen get through the body and out of the body? And there's a variety of bacteria that produce an enzyme called beta-glucuronidase, which regulates this estrogen metabolism and estrogen levels. And so this enzyme, it can change the structure of estrogen, allowing it to be reabsorbed into the body. So an impaired estrobolome can lead to low estrogen symptoms or high estrogen issues. So the thing that I like to test personally is I like to test beta-glucuronidase on a stool test, because it shows us if estrogen may be recirculating in the body. Because what beta-glucuronidase does is it basically unties the bow and opens the box to put things back into circulation, right? So it can put estrogen back into circulation. So beta-glucuronidase is an important marker. So if you have something like a GI map, go and look at your beta-glucuronidase marker and see what's going on there. And one of the things that really drives this marker up is a dysbiotic gut. So that dysbiotic gut can then affect how we detoxify things. So if I'm running a stool test, I want to look at beta-glucuronidase, see why it's there in the first place. So we would rebalance the microbiome. And also interim, we might use something like calcium D-glucarate to pull that out of the stool in the interim to decrease the symptoms. Another thing I love to use with estrogen is any kind of sulfur. So like broccoli sprouts, sulforaphane, anything that's high in sulfur really can support the removal of estrogen. That's a whole nother podcast. But back to the consequences of constipation. So number 2 is when you're constipated regularly, your colon starts to get the message that nothing's moving and this is the new normal. And just like a muscle you don't move or don't engage with, it starts to lose tone and responsiveness, right? So it doesn't get the signal to contract and move along as strongly or as often. So think of it like your brain says it's time to go, but your nervous system sends the signal and your colon's like, I'm tired. I haven't had a good rhythm in weeks. What do you mean? I don't know how to do that. It sort of becomes lazy. And this leads to sluggish motility, where the colon, it doesn't respond well to internal cues or stretch or even reach its fullness. It becomes less sensitive to the signals from the brain and the body. And it also becomes less sensitive to the signal that there's stool in the colon that's got to be moved, right? It's just normal. It's just used to having all this stool sitting in there. And so here's the kicker. The longer the stool sits, the more water gets absorbed, making it even harder and slower to pass, right? So then you got like this brick sitting in your colon. No wonder it's hard to get out. So this then reinforces this loop, and your colon learns to hold rather than release. So moving on to number 3 is, if we are constipated, this can lead to gut dysbiosis, because if you have a stagnant stool sitting in there, it can feed the wrong bacteria or yeast and allow it to overgrow, and this disrupts the balance and can lead to things like bloating and gas and skin issues. So yeah, basically super simple. Constipation can make your microbiome out of balance and lead to dysbiosis, which, remember again, dysbiosis is imbalance in the beneficial and the pathogenic bacteria, where the pathogens are starting to overgrow and or the beneficial species are just very low. Number 4, constipation can lead to inflammation and leaky gut. So I like to think about this in, like, if you're thinking about a river, and in the river they put a dam, and over time this dam, at the end where the dam was, it would lead to stagnant water, which then breeds algae and bacteria and toxin. And this ripple effect will then affect and allow the pressure to build upstream. This is the same thing with constipation, and this can lead to things like, yes, irritating the colon, so right down where the dam is. And then this can ripple effect into inflammation, and issues start to spread into the small intestine because it's right there. And this can lead to things like SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, due to impaired motility. Then we can start to see things like lipopolysaccharide, LPS, like we spoke about in the leaky gut episode, which I can link in the show notes. If you haven't listened to that, it's really interesting. And if we have LPS in the bloodstream, this literally flips the light switch on for systemic inflammation. So ideally, we get pooping so we avoid inflammation in the whole body. Number 5 is, this can lead to mental and emotional stuff, right? Brain fog, anxiety, low mood, anger, irritability. I don't know about you, but when I am constipated, I notice my anger and my irritability definitely go up. This isn't just like a colon issue. This is a full body-wide issue. Number 6 is, it leads to physical discomfort, right? Bloating, cramping. If you've been constipated, you know what I'm talking about. It's so uncomfortable, and it just makes you kind of angry and irritated alongside. You can see hemorrhoids, anal fissures, straining, reduced appetite because you're like, oh, I don't want to eat any more food because where's it all going? Nausea, low energy, fatigue. And the last thing I'll say is number 7. So this is kind of the overarching theme of constipation, where it leads to sluggish detoxification, because your bowels are key for detox. They're the numero uno detox, right? If you aren't getting stuff out of the stool, you are impacting your liver, your lymph, your skin, your breath, your bile, all this stuff, because this is like the bulk of our waste material. Every single day we need to be getting it out, ideally 1 to 3 times a day. So if you're dealing with things like sluggish bile or inability to digest fats or hormone issues, that might not necessarily just be a hormone issue. You might actually just need to start pooping to help your body release some of these toxins. Or if you're dealing with liver issues, make sure that you're pooping every day, right? Anytime I'm doing a gut healing protocol, or we're removing even harmful bacteria in the gut, I'm always supporting detox from the bowels first, right? We start with pooping daily. Get the stuff into the toilet. So next we are going to switch gears, and we are going to move into, why do you have constipation? Why can you not go to the bathroom? And why are you all bunged up and stuck? Right? So this can be from a sedentary lifestyle. Are you just sitting around, not moving your body? Our bodies are designed to move. Even our diaphragm, it's really important to inhale and exhale deeply so that we can have circulation and movement in our body, in our internal organs. But this stems out to the physical body too. Are you sitting at a desk, or are you unmotivated? Let's get you moving. This can really help with constipation. Number 2 is dehydration, right? We need water to poop. And so many people think that they are well hydrated, but we need to make sure that we have ample amounts of water, ideally 2 to 3 liters a day, with some minerals in there. So that's the next one. If you have a lack of minerals, you are going to be constipated, because we need things like potassium and magnesium to get things moving. Literally, potassium really helps to support the motility of the gut. It gets things moving. Like there's like little contractions that happen to get things moving from top to tail. And if we don't have enough magnesium, potassium, even sodium, we're going to struggle with getting things moving along. So lack of minerals is 100% one of the first things I always start with. And if we don't have these minerals and these electrolytes, you might be seeing things like edema, swelling, muscle cramping, muscle endurance, like you just don't have the endurance to surf or to ski or to hike or whatever. If you have frequent urination, this is a sign that your body doesn't have enough minerals. If you're super thirsty all the time, if you're craving salt or you have abnormal sweating, if you have alternating bowels, so that's like constipated one day, diarrhea the next day, swapping in back and forth. In Vitalist medicine, we call that windy. Do you have a windy constitution where things are shifting around? You might need some minerals. And then if you have shallow, rapid breathing, what's going on with your minerals? Number 4 is low stomach acid. If you have low stomach acid, also known as hypochlorhydria, this can lead to pancreatic insufficiency and bile issues. And as you know, if you've been listening to the podcast, we have to have adequate amounts of stomach acid, pancreatic enzymes, and bile to get things moving along. Because if we aren't breaking down our food with these important digestive secretions, then everything slows down. Because if big chunks of food end up in the small intestine, this basically signals to the body, slow down, wait, we need to absorb and digest this food, and it slows everything down. So when we increase our stomach acid and support our digestion from top to tail, which we're going to do in my Mind Gut Reset program that's coming up in August. So if you want to join, come join me. But we really got to support optimizing digestion, right? It's not the food that you're reacting to. It's honestly your digestion is not functioning properly. So the next one, number 5, is if you have motility issues. So if you have something going on with your migrating motor complex, if you struggle to get things moving along. So this can be from food poisoning. This can be from SIBO. This can be with people who are struggling to eat fiber. We need to really support the motility of your gut and get things moving along and scrubbing along. The next one is dysbiosis. If you have dysbiotic gut, so something like Methanobacter SIBO, so methane dominant SIBO, this is a bacteria in the small intestine that can actually slow motility. And this is a big reason I love to test for what's going on in the gut, because it can be so many different things where, yes, we always focus on the foundations, but if you've already implemented the foundations, we need to kind of do some digging to see who's driving this constipation. And one thing we often see is methane dominant SIBO, or having methanogens in the digestive tract. Number 7 is a poor diet, right? So if you just literally have a poor diet, a shitty diet, and you're eating inflammatory seed oils, you're not eating any fiber, you're eating tons of refined carbohydrates, this is going to bung you up. So if you have a poor diet and you want to understand what that is, check out last week's episode. I just broke it down really simple to help you understand what to actually eat and what to focus on from a very basic level. Number 8 is food sensitivities. If we have certain food sensitivities, the way that our body can react is it can speed things up, it can slow things down. Everyone reacts so differently to food if they are intolerant to it. So for me, one of my food intolerances is rice. And if I have rice, it's okay. But then if I keep having rice, I just notice my motility starts to slow down and I get really constipated. So food sensitivities manifest very differently in everyone. And so if you're eating something that you know isn't treating you well, or know intuitively it doesn't agree with you, this could be the thing driving your constipation. I've seen so many people in my clinic now that have had constipation, and they remove specifically gluten and things start to move along. Gluten is something that I pretty much see improve every single client when they remove it from their diet, things really start to improve. So it could be that thing that you know intuitively isn't treating you well, and maybe you're totally unaware of that. And what's cool is you could just pull it out for 4 weeks and see what happens. Number 9 is dietary fiber. We need fiber. Fiber is like the scrub brush for the gut, right? We need to scrub and get things moving. Fiber is so phenomenal and so cool, where it's not only just feeding the beneficial species in our gut, it also scrubs and cleans. It helps bind to toxins and pull them out. So if you aren't eating enough fiber, this can show up as constipation, right? That's the one that we know the most. And so many times you see people on things like Metamucil or, some over-the-counter thing for constipation that's a fiber supplement. And we got to flip over the packet and see, because sometimes like you flip over the packet of Metamucil and it's got like color 567 and all these additives that what are those actually doing to the body? So if you're taking something like Metamucil, just take psyllium husk, because that's the actual active ingredient in that. And anytime you're doing fiber to help your constipation, just make sure that you're drinking enough water, because the opposite can happen. You can get constipated if you don't have enough water, right? So if anything's sitting in the colon for long enough, it's going to keep absorbing, the body's going to keep absorbing water and make the stool harder and harder. So we want to keep, increasing the fiber, and also we need to stay hydrated and have minerals. Number 10, low carbs could be causing your constipation. And again, I see this so much with this trend going keto and going carnivore. We need soluble fiber. Without them, less water is pulled into the stool and it's harder to poop, right? So just check in on your low carb diet. If you're constipated and you're doing low carb, you might need to increase your carbs a little bit to get your body pooping. Number 11, poor vagal tone. So this is something that happened to me. And I think if you're an athlete, or if you've been out there and you've hit your head, or even if you've had a long-term chronic stress or trauma, we can have poor vagal tone. And like I've stated in previous episodes, the vagus nerve is how we communicate from the brain to the gut. And it's really important for peristalsis, so moving things along the gut. So we need to check in with our vagus nerve. And there's things like even just tapping into a parasympathetic state. So my favorite super easy thing for that is, if you're doing a meditation or you're doing breath work, just focus on bringing your exhale longer than your inhale. So inhale for 5 seconds and exhale for 7. That's one of the easiest and most effective ways to tap into your parasympathetic state. So we want to support your vagal tone. You can also do this with things like coffee enemas and doing a cold face plunge, or a cold water bath in the morning, right? Just get your ice out, put some water in it, and dunk your face in. It's really great for your vagus nerve. Number 12 is stress and being in overdrive, right? You're like in this holding pattern where nothing ever relaxes. And when we're in this state, we don't have peristalsis. We don't have movement. We are rigid and stiff and stressed, right? We're not focusing on digesting and absorbing our nutrients, because when we're in a stress state, the body it's prioritizing survival, right? And that's a beautiful thing when we're talking about evolving into a better, beautiful human species. But we are putting our bodies under so much stress where, yes, we have to focus on survival, and also we got to digest our food. So if we never give our body the opportunity to focus on rest and digest mode, this is going to be a problem, because we can end up being constipated. And this, for me, was the biggest piece. I didn't realize how jacked up my nervous system was and my emotions were, and really tapping into what was it that I was holding on to emotionally, right? What are my internal patterns that I wasn't looking at? And seriously, once I started turning inward and looking at what was going on with my mental state, my emotional state, my energetic state, my spiritual state, I really learned how to relax. And it's a constant practice, right? I am a go, super charge ahead person. Like it's my family. Like that's what we do. And also it doesn't always serve us, because it puts us in that stress state. And so I'm learning to slow down and breathe deeper. I'm so proud of myself. I've done, I think, almost 40 days of meditation in a row, and it's long meditations, like 10 to 30 minutes. So it becomes a practice that gets easier over time. So when we are stuck in this sympathetic overdrive holding pattern and we have shallow breathing, this leads to low stomach acid, motility issues, low transit time, slow transit time, bile issues, and low pancreatic enzymes. So always, always, always we are looking to the stress piece with constipation. And often I see it when people are holding their emotions, they can be very, very constipated. Okay, so number 13, why you may be constipated could be from your hormones, low serotonin, low melatonin, an underactive thyroid. This is a big one that I like to get my hands on if I have a client that's constipated, is we always are checking their thyroid, and not just TSH. We are checking all the different interactions of the thyroid hormone. We're checking T3, we're checking T4, we're checking TSH, we're checking antibodies. We're really getting a bigger comprehensive picture of the health of the thyroid. Because if we have an underactive thyroid, this can slow everything down. So if we have constipation that doesn't resolve from the foundational stuff, we definitely want to be doing some deeper digging and looking under the hood to see, is it your thyroid? Is it your minerals? Is it, food sensitivities? What is it, right? We gotta do some digging to see what's going on. All right. So hopefully that brings you some understanding of where this is coming from, because I know that constipation can be really confusing and really frustrating, but we gotta make sure these basic things are looked at, right? So from a foundational point, we gotta make sure you're moving, we gotta make sure you're sleeping, we gotta make sure you've got a healthy diet, enough fiber, all the things I just mentioned. Okay, so let's dive into it. How do we get things moving, right? What is the process that we need to go through to get pooping? We need to be getting this shit out of the body. So we need to look at the foundations, right? So eating enough fiber, eating enough vegetables, ideally filling up half your plate with veggies, fibrous veggies. We need to be moving the body, right? Are you getting out and walking? Are you moving your abdomen? Like even just stretching, doing some abdominal twists, or bringing your back over a ball, just really getting this moving. I mean, even abdominal massage, and always making sure you're moving in a clockwise position or a clockwise movement. We need to address the stress. And yes, I can just gloss over that one because it's like, oh yeah, stress. But I'm serious. This is such a freaking important piece that we can't jump over. The stress is important. So what emotional stuff is going on for you? Is there something that you need to bring up? Is there something that you need to say to somebody? Get something off your chest and allow your stressors and your stress response to calm down a little bit. One way we can do this super easily is just balancing our blood sugar, right? When we start balancing our blood sugar, our stress levels massively, massively balance out. Another thing to do is check in on your hydration and minerals. So make sure you're drinking enough water. So 2 to 3 liters per day, right? Do you think you drink enough water? How much water are you drinking? Maybe the first step for you is to measure it. Literally just check in with how much water you're drinking. Do you feel thirsty? Right? Do you have lots of sensations of thirst? You might need water and minerals. One thing that I find to be really helpful is to do either adrenal cocktails or a trace mineral drops in your water first thing in the morning. This is a great starting place. Have like a quart of water and put some trace minerals or adrenal cocktail in there and just slowly sip it throughout your morning before eating breakfast. So as you're getting your day ready, like do it first thing when you wake up so you can start sipping. It can be amazing for stimulating a bowel movement. And we want to drink slowly, right? Slowly, because the faster we drink, the faster that we increase our blood volume, which sends a message to the kidneys to filter. And we can then lose water before it has a chance to diffuse into the tissue. So we don't want to be chugging water. We just want to be sipping it gently throughout the day. So I'm going to take a moment right now and you can join me to have a sip of water. Yeah, sip that water. It's like when I climbed Denali back in the day in 2012, I think. Yeah, I climbed Denali and skied it. And one of the biggest things that I learned from my friend Kim Grant, she was like, just sip 2 finger width of your water bottle to make sure that you're actually hydrating. I will never forget that. That was such a golden nugget from such a goddess in the mountains. She really taught me how to hydrate myself. Sip, don't chug. And anytime you drink water and have to pee, this is a clue into you're either drinking your water way too fast, you don't have enough minerals, there might be something going on with your adrenals. So all these symptoms that are happening within the body, they have meaning. So if you ever go to the doctor and they're like, oh no, nothing's wrong with you, I beg to differ. Every symptom of your body has some kind of meaning, and it's giving you a clue and a message of something that's maybe imbalanced or something that's going on. So next, let's talk into support tools and supplements. So sometimes with constipation, we have to get things moving with a little support before it happens naturally. Like that is totally common and that happens all the time. And it's usually the first thing that I do in my practice is to because we just need to be getting the poop out of the body to get things moving, right? And sometimes that means you need to take a little bit of support. So I like using magnesium oxide. So I like using magnesium forms that aren't well absorbed because then that helps have a bowel movement. I don't love using magnesium citrate anymore because I took this training under this naturopath who she mentioned something about magnesium citrate being hard on our Krebs cycle, which is how we make energy. So I have moved away from using citrate-based supplements, and now I'll use magnesium oxide for this, or I'll use even like a green tea mixed with jasmine, or the mineral, like I just said, the mineral cocktail in the morning, slow sip that. Vitamin C, great one. Sometimes you have to go up pretty high in dose. And fiber. And I love using fibers, especially things like PHGG or partially hydrolyzed guar gum. This is really gentle and subtle for people with SIBO or people who are struggling with gas and bloating. And you can also bring in things like apple pectin. So you make yourself an applesauce, or, make an apple and pear mix. You can use chia puddings, flax seeds soaked in water. We can do 2 kiwis a day. These are all ways to use fibers to help move the gut. I mean, there's this whole trend on Instagram right now that's 2 kiwis a day helps constipation, but it's for a reason. It's actually really real. If you need to go poop, try eating 2 kiwis a day. And if they're organic, eat the skins too, because that's really nice in fiber. You can do things like acacia gum, which reduces methane, which is that bacteria that can slow motility. So with that, you start with like 1/4 of a teaspoon and slowly work up. But anytime you're working with fiber, just know that you have to go slow and slowly increase, right? Psyllium husk, which is an amazing one. I have had so many people have such simple, basic results from just doing a tablespoon of psyllium husk at night. And you might have to start with like a teaspoon daily and slowly increase to a tablespoon per day. Some people like to split it into 2 smaller servings, like a half a tablespoon in the morning, half a tablespoon at night. But I like to mix it with 8 ounces of water and then just drink it really quickly because it is a soluble fiber, mostly soluble fiber. So it does kind of bulk up and gets a bit chunky, and it's much easier to just drink if you drink it quickly. And then I leave a little bit of water in the glass so that I can get the rest of it and slug it back. So when we're talking about fiber, we've got soluble fiber, which is the gentler kind. It dissolves in water and it forms a gel-like texture in your gut. And that gel can help soften your stool, and so it makes the stool easier to pass. It also slows things down just enough to improve absorption. And so it can actually support regularity. So it can support constipation, and it can also support diarrhea. Right? So you'll find soluble fibers in things like psyllium husk and apples, organic oats, flax seeds, chia seeds. And this type of fiber is usually better tolerated if your gut is really sensitive or inflamed compared to insoluble fiber. So insoluble fiber is the kind of fiber that doesn't dissolve in water and it doesn't turn into a gel. And instead it acts like a bulk and acts like a brush through your digestive system. So that may sound super helpful, and sometimes it is, and it is if your gut's feeling really strong and resilient. But if your gut is feeling tender and inflamed and your colon isn't moving very well, it might just be a little bit harsh, and sometimes it can make constipation worse. So we just want to be cautious with insoluble fiber if our gut is really tender. So you'll find this in raw veggies, in fruit and veggie skins, or whole grains and seeds. So I'm not saying it's good or bad. I'm just saying if you are struggling with your gut, you may want to stick to cooked foods and soluble fibers to start. So the easiest thing, just cook your foods. And then slowly add in salads as things start to improve and as you start to feel better. Next, we move to dysbiosis. So we clear out gut infections, right? We work on SIBO. We work out clearing out the infections. And the way that I do this in my practice is I use a GI map or I test SIBO, but I always test the colon first. So I'm always testing the large intestine and looking at a GI map first, because often when we recalibrate that, the SIBO might disappear and go away. So we got to check in with your infections, right? Because we now know that could be causing constipation. And then we can move, right? We can move the body, which we move the body by walking or using a rebounder or going to yoga or stretching, breath work. There's also lymphatics, right? We want to support our lymphatic system because our lymphatic system doesn't have a pump like the heart for circulation. We have to move the body and move, like even the armpits. We've got lots of lymph nodes in the armpits. We got to move our body, right? So however you can get movement into the body, that's going to support your motility of the gut and things like your lymphatic system and your circulation. Next, we want to look at your vagus nerve and your gut to brain axis. So we want to focus on the parasympathetic. So now you know the best way to do that, easiest way to do that is take a deep breath in and then allow your exhale to be longer. So a 6 count breath in and 8 counts of a breath out. And if you haven't done that all day, maybe just take this opportunity to allow you to tap into your parasympathetic state just really quickly. And you can even notice in my voice, things are more chill. So we can do this around eating, especially because then we tap into the rest and digest mode. So we can eat undistracted, eat outside, sitting down, breathing, and chewing our food. This is such a great way to connect the brain to the gut. Another thing we can do from a mechanical perspective is elevate our knees and our feet. So a squatty potty, right? This is actually the natural position for our body to poop. And this produces a faster and more effective bowel movement. So if you want to improve your bowel movements, it's super easy. Just grab yourself a squatty potty and elevate your knees and your feet, and you're putting yourself in a better position to go to the bathroom. We didn't have toilets forever, right? We were always squatting. So we haven't caught up quite yet with the body mechanics, and so we can use a squatty potty. Okay, so I've got a few more things that can help us go to the bathroom, and I want to dive into laxatives and prokinetics and things that can stimulate bowel movements. So while they both can help you, right, laxatives and prokinetics, they're doing very different things inside the body. So laxatives are a quick relief. They're not functional support. Most laxatives, they don't actually improve your gut's natural function, which that's what we're all about here. We want to improve your body's natural ability to function. They don't support the migrating motor complex, or the MMC, which is the system that sweeps the gut clean. It sweeps the gut clean between meals and keeps things moving. Instead, laxatives, they force the body into action, and that can come at a cost. We can become dependent, right? Over time, some people can develop this dependency where the colon stops responding to them. So all laxatives stimulate contraction in the colon, and this can lead to cramping and discomfort and irritation. It can be so uncomfortable. If you've taken too many laxatives, you know what I'm talking about. It can be super, super uncomfortable. But then we have osmotic laxatives. So these work by drawing water into the colon to soften the stool. So this is an example like magnesium citrate, or what I like to use, magnesium oxide. Even Miralax, this is the same concept where we're drawing water into the stool. And these osmotics, they contain larger molecules that aren't easily absorbed. So they stay in the colon, and that's what pulls the water into the bowel. So this can be helpful short term for sure, but still it's not supporting natural motility. So if you're relying on magnesium to go to the bathroom, we really want to look under the hood and see what's actually going wrong and why you aren't actually able to go to the bathroom naturally. So next we have stimulant laxatives. So these go a step further. They actually activate transport channels in the gut lining and pull water in and trigger strong contractions. And they can really cause the classic cramping effect, like senna. And these are known as pro-secretory agents, which are just substances that stimulate the lining of the intestines to secrete water into the gut. So the problem here is long-term use can actually weaken and make the colon's muscle toe atrophy. It can lead to things like losing our responsiveness to our nerves, right? And then our body stops pooping on its own and it creates a cycle of dependency. So if you're depending on laxatives, it may be time to shift your strategy, right? Repair and retrain your gut. You may need to focus on vagal nerve support like deep breathing, cold exposure, gargling. You could bring in some lion's mane to support nerve regeneration. You could try colon hydrotherapy short term to mechanically get things moving. We want to slowly wean you off the laxatives so you can start pooping on your own, right? But we got to slowly wean off the laxative as we bring in these other supports. So you could, move from the stronger laxative to a magnesium oxide. Then we can move you to, vitamin C and adrenal cocktails and do some testing and see what's going on under the hood so that we can actually get your body functioning properly and get you pooping daily naturally. So what about prokinetics? So I love prokinetics. So when we are talking about restoring rhythm and not forcing, prokinetics come in and they help reset the motility and the natural movement of the gut, especially in the upper GI tract and the small intestines. So this is great for people who are struggling with bloating, gas, and indigestion, especially if you've had a history of SIBO, because what happens here is it coordinates peristalsis and supports the migrating motor complex, which is essential for getting things moving and grooving, like constipation. And they don't cause cramping because they help your gut remember how to move. You can even just use a ginger tea. There's a great product called Iberogast. You can get it all over the world, or Triphala or Motil Pro. These are all great prokinetics. So if you've been relying on laxatives, this is your reminder that the goal isn't just a bowel movement, right? It's a healthy, responsive, well-timed and trained gut, right? We want your digestion to be working optimally, and that's where we get to a place where you don't have to think about it anymore. So next, let's dive into probiotics, because everyone always wants to know about the probiotics. So when it comes to constipation or using probiotics in general, we got to be really specific, right? Because not all probiotics are created equal, especially when it comes to you using them for a specific reason. So if you've taken a general probiotic and felt no difference, it's probably because the strain really matters. And you need to have the right strains to actually support gut motility, not just more bacteria. So here are the probiotic strains that are shown to help with constipation. We have one superstar, so it's Lactobacillus reuteri, DSM. So this actually is super cool. This helps stimulate the release of oxytocin and supports the enteric nervous system. So remember, the enteric nervous system is the gut's own nervous system. So basically it gets the nerves firing in your gut again. And it also helps regulate your migrating motor complex, which is the system that sweeps waste through the intestines, right, between meals. And this strain has been studied in both adults and children for improving stool frequency and consistency. Then we have a bifido strain, so Bifidobacterium lactis, especially HN019 and BB12. So these strains are known to improve stool frequency and transit time. So that's exactly what we're looking for, right? This is a great strain if you're constipated. They've also been shown to reduce bloating and straining, and they support regularity without causing loose stools. How freaking cool is that? We've discovered specific strains of bacteria that can help us go to the bathroom. And there are a couple more strains that can help, like Lactobacillus casei and Lactobacillus plantarum. These are great things to look for in the store, so maybe write these down, rewind and write them down so you can take them with you and find something that will help you go poop. There is a supplement called Regular Girl that you can get on Amazon that can be really helpful for this, and I think it has bifidolactis. I can actually look. Let me look. I had it pulled up earlier. Yeah, Bifidobacterium lactis. There you go. And it has sun fiber, so that's a good one. Regular Girl. Easy to remember. So lastly, I want to talk about some mucilaginous herbs and then enemas. So mucilaginous herbs are another great way to help yourself with your sticky, stuck digestion. And mucilaginous herbs, they swell in water and they produce like a gel-like substance. So this is things like marshmallow root, aloe vera, slippery elm, comfrey, psyllium husk, fenugreek, hibiscus. All these things are mucilaginous. And honestly, for me, when I was studying herbalism, this was something that really supported me. I would drink marshmallow root tea because it would really help me lubricate my intestines and help me go to the bathroom. Because if you're constipated, most likely you're dealing with a drier constitution. And one way to do that, if you're looking at it from an herbalist perspective, is you want to bring in moistening herbs. So this would be like marshmallow root and aloe vera and slippery elm and psyllium, hibiscus, things like that. And these mucilaginous herbs are really soothing to the tissues too, so it can calm down inflammation, it can help with constipation, it can really help soothe and heal the digestive tract. So I love bringing mucilaginous herbs. Right now I have some aloe vera juice in the fridge. That's a really easy way to get a mucilaginous herb into you that is calming and soothing for the whole digestive tract. And then enemas. So if you tried all this stuff like I did, and I still needed to use enemas. So this is a great at-home treatment if you are struggling with going to the bathroom. So you can either add in water, you can add in coffee, you can add in probiotics, you can add in short-chain fatty acids. You can be really creative. And overall, it takes about 15 minutes, but if I'm being realistic, it takes, 30 minutes by the time I do all the things and get it all cleaned up and everything. And people think it's messy because of the poo, but no, it's sometimes just the coffee spills and it gets everywhere because you didn't turn the valve off or something. But the sooner that you get over the fact that you're sticking something up your bum, and if you're putting coffee in it, yes, sometimes you're putting coffee up your bum, but it can be so helpful because it not only helps you have a bowel movement, it also can help with your vagal nerve. It can help with your gallbladder and liver. So it's a really beautiful thing to have in your toolkit. And the nice thing about doing an enema at home is you can have a relief right away, right? You have a go-to treatment, boom, in your closet. And so if you're going to try this for your first time, try on a weekend or try when you are close to home so you can deal with any mistakes or mishaps. So you just know how that your bowel will respond. I personally just do it when I'm at home and I give myself about an hour. Once you do it over and over, you'll learn how long it takes you, how you respond, and it gets really, really quite simple. But at first, you might want to just give yourself a little bit of time. So this re-acidifies the colon, which is really important for the digestive tract. It stimulates the liver, and it can really just help us get things moving when we're feeling really stuck. So I like to start with 1 to 2 teaspoons. If I'm doing a coffee enema, I like to start with 1 to 2 teaspoons and then slowly increase, where right now I'm around a tablespoon of coffee, and that produces a very solid bowel movement. And also I know that it's helping my liver and it's helping my vagal nerve. And ideally you want to hold it in for about 10 minutes, ideally up to 15 minutes. That's the goal. You can also add things like probiotics and short chain fatty acids. You just open the capsule and put it in there. And so, yeah, those are all kind of my quick and dirty tips and tricks about how to get things moving. So hopefully that's helpful. Hopefully you've taken away one thing from today that you can implement and get yourself moving, because I really want you guys to start pooping because it will change your life. And so if constipation has been something you've learned to live with, I want you to know that it doesn't have to be that way. If you just take the right steps to support your gut and your nervous system and your minerals and your digestion as a whole, you 100% can have regular, easy daily bowel movements, and you will feel so much better in your body. I know that I went through that. I did that, and it's literally changed my life. So if you want to get started, you can grab my free digestive guide. Just head to the link in the show notes, which the show notes are the notes below the podcast. And yeah, click that link and you can get this guide. This is where you got to start with healing your gut. So if you are here because you're struggling with constipation and digestive issues, then I fully believe that functional nutrition And learning the foundations of functional health is the most effective way to get your bowels moving and to heal your gut. So you are probably, if you're like most, you are asking, well, how do you actually do this? How do you use functional nutrition to heal your gut? Well, that's exactly why I've created Mind Gut Reset, to help you learn and implement these foundations in a step-by-step blueprint. And I would love for you to join. We start August 1st, and I will let you know when doors open, but you got to join the priority list because they will be the first ones to know when enrollment opens. So go grab your seat on the priority list. So if you're interested in this, you can join me August 1st. That's it for today. Go get yourself pooping. It is the first step to healing your body, healing your mind, all of it. You got to get yourself moving and get the waste into the toilet. So thanks so much for tuning in. I'm so grateful to have you here. Until next time, have the best day, have the best week, and I'll see you in a couple weeks. If this episode lit something up within you, join me again in 2 weeks' time. Gut health doesn't have to be overwhelming. We'll unravel it here together, one episode at a time. Sign up for my newsletter with this link below to be the first to know when the next episode drops. And if someone came to mind while listening today, copy the link and share this episode if you think it could help them. Thanks for tuning in and listening to the Gut Health Jack podcast. Now get outside, have some fun, and I'll see you for the next episode.